Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Pear. This song was suggested by a fellow patron for multiple vocalist week but didn't make it. I need you to experience it. Enjoy. I'm pretty sure I will, and I'm actually stoked for this as well. The group is called San Salvador. We checked them out on live stream probably in January, if I had to guess. Maybe it was February, but this year. They are a group of musicians who sing in a dying language. I don't think it's dead yet. I think there's still some people who speak it, but it's not a lot. And so they are creating music in this language, and it's just phenomenal. The amount of energy and the harmonic element to it. There's like 5 vocalists or 6 vocalists or something, and they're playing percussion while they're singing. It's just, when we saw that during live stream, I was blown away. I'm really excited to listen to some more. So let's dive into this today and see what San Salvador is bringing to the table with La Grande Folie. Oh. You don't hear pedal tones in group vocal stuff too often. Beautiful harmonic work in that entire intro. Yeah. A very fun section. This guy on the drums smiling. Yeah, I'd be doing the same thing. Just a fun section. Ooh. I think that was a subtle tempo downshift.
Quiero talento de nuevo, eres como no son que no se ve tú. Oh, el amor quiero talento de
So good. Oh, very cool. So we have a digital bass kick. Subtle retardando. It's really impressive how in tune these two people are. Really noticeable because they're singing the same note. I mean, the harmonies have been fantastic this whole time, but just the sheer precision here is ridiculous. Yeah. That syncopated semi-hocket work. So impressive. Yeah, that bounciness. Pour les gens qui sont endormis, oh la
grande folie, que de dormir sans souci, les gens qui sont endormis,
So
la grande
good.
folie, que de dormir sans souci, les gens qui sont endormis, la grande folie, que de dormir sans souci, les gens qui sont endormis,
The
la grande
endurance is ridiculous too.
La grande folie, que de dormir sans souci.
They're back to the opening. They make it feel like there's still room to increase tension in size and layers. Bro, you know what the crazy part is too? There is a video right here. I don't know if you can, yeah, I guess you can see that. It's very small for you probably. It says full performance, 23 minutes. They had another 10 minutes of music to play before that, after that. I think both are impressive. Either retaining enough stamina for this song or being able to still play something after doing this one. Both of those are ridiculously impressive. Um, but see, that's what I was talking about earlier, is just the sheer endurance of this. I mean, you can hear it even in the middle of the performance. Some of these, uh, the panting, the being aerobically exhausted, of really pushing your air control to the limits. Because everybody here is singing, and none of this, well, very little of it is long held out notes, which is going to be, it's going to stress your ability to control your airflow as well. But a lot of it is really quickly delivered stuff where there's just not places to breathe at, and you just got to take a bunch of these short, shallow breaths wherever you can. And so you're just constantly going all the time, but there's also so much physical movement. I mean, even when you look at the cymbal player, not cymbal, geez, what is it? The tambourine player. I mean, he's all over that thing. He hits the side, he hits the center, he kind of does like this run up the middle of it. He's shaking it while he's doing all this too. Like, there's a lot of movement there. The two people on the full drums, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of movement to that. Uh, the two vocalists who are just doing hand clapping, I mean, there's still a lot to that because they're not clapping quietly. This isn't a golf clap. I mean, these claps are loud, full of body, resounding. It's just, it is so much movement. And I don't know if you noticed this, but at the point that I paused, one of the vocalists went down to sit. And I remember like somebody was like leaning over, maybe like on their like hands on their thigh or something, or something like that, just to like sort of compress for a second and just catch your breath because it is very, very intense. And this was something that I noticed when we checked it out on live stream too. Like, I can't imagine doing the vocal bit to any of this. Like, even past the part of not knowing the language. Say I just memorize all the syllables or something like that. Like, it is still incredibly intense as a vocal song. But then everybody's also doing percussion too. And you got the technical elements of like polyrhythm, of playing a different rhythm in your instrument than you are singing, a different rhythmic component to the vocal line than your percussion line. And like there's just the complexities of that, but all this stuff is also quite difficult on top of that. And then you do it for such a long amount of time too. And the performative element of it is just, dude, I envy them. Maybe in my prime I might have had the aerobic stamina to do this. I don't anymore though. I'm getting winded just listening to them. It's it's impressive on a lot of levels, and yeah, I love it. And the thing is too, is it's not just that it's difficult to perform, which it is just like on the surface level. You look at the sheet music and you're like, yeah, dude, that's gonna be tough. But then you realize how they're performing it. They're not right next to the mic, a little quiet, and it kind of get amplified by the microphone and the electronics. You'll notice most of them have quite, I mean, even bigger than, I mean, this is about, I'd say 2 inches or so. Some of these vocalists are 6 inches away from their microphone. They are yelling, they are shouting, they are pushing so much volume out of their lungs. It is amazing that they can hold out these notes as long as they can, but it also has a lot of volume and size to it. And all of them are doing this. And it's just like, it is ridiculous the skill that goes into this. Just like on every single level of it. But the cool thing too is that it's not just a performative thing that amazes me. I really dig the sound of the song. The composition is a lot of repetition. I would say that there's about, I mean, there's a lot of ideas in here. There's probably about 13, 14, about an average of one musical idea per minute, minute and a half, somewhere like that. But it still moves through a lot of ideas, and all of them sound great. There's a nice ebb and flow, there's building up of ideas, a release of energy and tension to find lows. The pacing is just really great. And what I find interesting about this, kind of pairing back to the performance side, at the end of the song, I was saying it's already peak. How do you go above peak? Where are they getting more volume from? Where are they getting more size from? There are 6 voices and 6 percussion instruments, and they're all activated. How are you adding more to this song? And it's really impressive just how big they can get. Um, and a lot of that comes down to dynamics and contrast and really knowing where your floor is as a musical group and where your ceiling is and being able to fluctuate and control everywhere in between. And even better, I think, is saving the peak for the end. I thought we had hit the peak multiple times in that song, places that the song just felt very full and loud, very impressive. And with 30, 40 seconds to go, they go above that. It was just wonderful. Fantastic use of setting expectations and then defying them because you're the one who set them. You kind of trick the audience, and it is a great way to pull the rug out from the listener and really make something sound bombastic and larger than life at the end of the track. Now, here's something interesting. I want to read because, well, I don't think there were lyrics. Granted, I don't do lyrical dives during live streams, anyways, but for some reason, I have the idea that I'm not going to be able to find lyrics for this, and I don't know where that stems from. Maybe I will. Maybe someone's you know, transcribe the lyrics. Maybe they even put the lyrics out. Anyways, maybe I'll find some, but I don't think I'm going to be able to for one reason or another. And so, in place of that, I'm going to want to read a little bit about the group and the language that they're singing in and musical influences. And we'll do a little background info at the end of this video. Um, well, if I find lyrics or not, but if we don't, it'll be in place of that. But one thing I noticed is that as far as musical influences go, I hear quite a few in here. If I remember correctly, and I could be really wrong, so like I said, stick around. We're going to go look up some facts on this. But I think this is a Mediterranean uh, language. I don't remember. It was a group of countries that it originated from, um, were like a group of modern countries. I don't know if they were those same countries when this language came around, but I'm pretty sure it was Mediterranean. But I hear a lot of musical influences from everywhere, which makes me wonder if they're making music that is similar to the type of music that was of the culture that this language is from, or if the music is a bit more worldly, encompassing a bit outside of the scope of just the language. Because when I listen to rhythmic ideas in here, I can hear a little bit of North African. I hear a little bit of like a generic, and this is just going to be due to me not having a lot of exposure to this, so I might be a little off here. A generic Middle Eastern rhythm, but I also hear Latin rhythms, not necessarily Spanish, like Spain Spanish, but like Latin American rhythms, which probably originated. I don't know if they originated from Spain. I do know that Spanish music and Latin music tend to have a lot of overlap, and I don't know the historical reason why there's that overlap. Something I should look into. But there are specific elements that I feel sort of separate the two types of music. And for whatever reason, I hear a lot of Latin elements in this. I find that very interesting. And it's not just the rhythmic elements either. I mean, we can look at the harmonic parts in here too. The harmonies that these people are singing in, that's sort of all over the place too. Some of the earlier held out notes, in fact, the intro, the what we revisited towards the end of the three female vocalists creating these large chords. The nearest thing I have to that, what kind of clicks in my brain, is it's somewhere along the lines of Gregorian chant, which that's Western Europe, isn't it? I got to look into that too. But that's what I mean. Like, it feels like things are just like cherry picked from all over and kind of smashed together. But there's also what feels to me very Middle Eastern harmonies in here as well, and melodies. Um, and it's a smorgasbord of ideas that all come together very well to my ears, at least. It constantly feels like it's tossing in little bits of spice here and there to uh, keep the song feeling active and evolving and changing. As far as I can tell, it keeps a pretty standard idea. You have it's basically a cappella with a couple of percussion instruments, and it keeps it sounding interesting from moment to moment. I mean, I was just as engaged with all 14, 13 minutes of this as I was on the live stream, which was less than 7 minutes. I don't remember how long that song was. But I honestly think I could listen to a whole album of this. It is as intense as it is, it's very soothing and relaxing to me. I think a lot of that just comes down to the beautiful harmonies and the infectious groove that exists in most of it. It's uh it's just a really impressive display of skill while also retaining cultural history and sort of putting it into recording, whether that's audio or in this case a video performance, and sort of immortalizing it in history. I mean, media decays. Maybe one day down the road this video gets lost in an unfortunate event. Maybe we can't preserve everything off of YouTube and somehow Google goes under or something. But as of right now, I mean, this video came out 5 years ago. I'm sure in 5 years from now, it'll still be here. Probably 10 or 15 years from now, it'll still be here. There's stuff on Google that's 15, 20 years old now. It's very cool, I think, of them to take their culture and present it in a way that is going to connect with a much larger people than I think would normally connect with it, while also sort of immortalizing this language. If it does, endangered. I think it's an endangered language. Earlier I said dying, but I think endangered is the proper term for it. But I mean, if it does fade out of existence, at least there's always this, a very modern take on this culture's language and maybe musical ideas too. And it's really cool to see people going out of their way to preserve their history like this. I think that's awesome. I'm going to see if I can find some lyrics. I'm also going to look at some background information. And when we come back, we'll discuss one or both of those things. All right. As expected, I didn't find any lyrics, and interestingly, I didn't really find much of a biography on their official homepage, although it is also quite outdated with the latest information and update being from 2023. I did, however, find a description of them on riotartists.com. It says that they use Occitan polyphony. Polyphony is just a term for more than one voice, and it's the opposite of like monophonic, which is a single voice. So we have multiple vocalists here, but also multiple instruments. They're a 6-voice group that also use percussion. It says collectively they embark on a search for a universal folklore. I think that is an interesting idea in general. More interesting that they're attempting to find this through music. It says that they're rooted in the region's deep troubadour traditions, yet circulating between cultures and musical genres. This is sort of what I was talking about. So, a troubadour is basically like a traveling bard from, well, the term typically talks about like southern France, um, and a traveling bard basically from like the 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, medieval times, give or take, somewhere in there. And so they go from town to town, playing their music, and using the language of Occitan. Occitan. There we go. I just learned how to pronounce it today, so I'm going to get it wrong a couple of times. I apologize. And I might not even be saying it totally correct either. For instance, I've only ever heard English speakers say it. So it's quite possible that in the native tongue it has a different pronunciation. Um, but this idea of circulating between cultures and musical genres, this is what I was talking about with kind of hearing a very worldly element to it, where I could hear harmonic and rhythmic devices from a plethora of countries' folk music and traditional sounds. It says that their compositions use Occitan language as a rhythmic instrument. That was definitely something I talked about in here, is just how technically quick and proficient everything is. And also during the reaction, talking about how we have all of the hockets and the rhythmic layerings and the polyrhythm going on in here. Everything is very rhythmic, although we do see the contrast of that in the intro and towards the outro with those long held out chords. Let's see, that their songs often touch on themes such as springtime, religion, or war, but that they do sing about a variety of themes. Interestingly, well, I'll get to that in a second. I did find this other thing on Cal Poly Arts that mentions that the Occitan language is a Romance language spoken in southern France, Italy's Occitan valleys, and in parts of Spain and Monaco. So I was right about Mediterranean, but I barely remember. Spain is interesting though, because I was talking about how there were some rhythms in here that kind of felt Spanish to me, but also maybe leaning a bit more towards Latin. So I'm curious for people who are more familiar with the types of music that the types of like folk music from across the world, traditional sounds, where you might be able to pinpoint some of the rhythms or chord progressions going on in here. Because I'm very Western music trained. I can tell you a lot about classical music. I can tell you a lot about jazz. I'm becoming very proficient in rock and metal. But I mean, talking about like traditional Latin American music, traditional Middle Eastern music, I have a very, very cursory knowledge of any of that. So I would love to learn more. If you have a bit more proficiency in those areas and you can tell me some more details, I would love to hear about it, because it does seem to be confirmed that they take music from all over the place and incorporate it into their art, which I think is fascinating, and I just love to know more about it. Now, as I said, something that is very interesting is that on the riotartist.com page, there is a paragraph specifically describing what this song is about. It says that they question the myth of an unalterable heritage, seeking instead to answer the question of the boundaries between tradition and creation. That makes a lot of sense with their idea here, their core purpose, which is to take this endangered language, something very traditional, and creating something new out of it. How do you move from something immutable like tradition, the same thing you do every year because you did it that way the year before? And that's just like a like surface level of tradition. But like even this traditional music, right? Where do you allow that to move into something malleable? I think that is an awesome question, because I'm not a big fan of tradition in general. I don't know if y'all have noticed that, especially musically over the years, that I am a huge fan of pushing things to the boundaries and seeing what's out there, even if it bounces off of me. If the music's too esoteric for me, I'm still going to congratulate what they're doing and explore what they're doing and how they're doing it. I'm a big fan of seeing how we can push past what we've already done. And I love that that's like a core principle of this song in particular. It says that there's an answer to those who say that music has a beginning and an end. It's a joyful quest that sees them following every path from the crossroads of trance, choral punk, global vocalese, and math rock constructions, and tying it together with modern Occitan language. That's just awesome. Pairing together so many different things and creating something new out of it. I love it. I really do. Um, I've I gotta look up, see if they're ever coming around here. This is definitely something that kind of leans a little bit into performance art. I don't know if I would enjoy just listening to an album of it. There's something about the visual part of it that I think is really important. Kind of like jazz to me. I really like jazz in live settings. I like it a little bit less so as studio recordings. I think that's this. If San Salvador ever came to my neck of the woods, I'm buying a ticket. I got to go see them. I've seen two performances of theirs, and I'm just impressed with both of them. And now that I know a little bit more about their directive as musicians, what they're trying to do as artists, I'm completely sold on pretty much anything they want to do. I'm behind them 100%. I think it's just awesome what they're doing, and that's just like the surface level, right? I mean, we went through a little bit of analysis here on a performative level. As a musician myself, I know how technically difficult this is. It isn't just about what they're doing that's awesome. They have the skills to back it up. And I mean, that just makes them a powerhouse right there, really. Those are my thoughts. San Salvador's La Grande Folie. What do you think of this track, though? Is there anything that stood out to you? Anything that you would like to add on to what I said or correct me on? Maybe have your own interpretation on things. Please put all of that and any other thoughts you might have down into the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. Takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. That wraps it up for today, but I'll be back tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, with the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.